I have this race has a particular aspect that should be highlighted. This race received the name of memorial for Mario Cabral, Nisha Cabral. Mario was born in 1934. He passed away just a few weeks ago, and he was born in a very wealthy family, one of the families with of textile companies in the north. He was born at Porto. He had a classical education. He spoke French at least as well as Portuguese. He played piano and violin, and he was also an athletic gymnast. He had he injured his foot, but otherwise he was in the national team for the Helsinki 1952 Olympics. So he had achieved a lot early in life, particularly in music and in gymnastics. But then he turned his attentions to the automobile and motor racing, and he quickly transformed himself from a rookie driving a Volkswagen and an Alfa Romeo and other interesting but not very fast cars, and ended up convincing Scuderia Centro Sud from Guglielmo Dei, Italian from Milan, to lend him some very good cars. He shared Mercedes Maserati 300S at the Nürburgring in 1958 with Maneno Garapinto, and after that he was on the front row to get a Formula One car for the Portuguese Grand Prix in 1959, which he did. We now have the podium for the previous race, the Classic Endurance Racing 2. Well done for all of them, congratulations. Going back to the historic Iberian Historic Endurance race organized by Race Ready, we will have a very long list of participants. I think that there are 41 cars ready to start. Let's see if all of them make it to the starting grid, but it seems that they will all be there. We have some sports cars, some prototypes, and even some touring cars. This is going to be a very... we have a wide variety of cars here waiting for us, and they will be racing for 50 minutes. Alistair.
Yes, it's not often you see an entry list which includes a Saab Sonnet and also Datsun 1200s as well. Not the most obvious of racing cars. Saab was quite successful in rallying, particularly with Eric Carlson in the early days, but it's not a car I've seen racing.
And Stig Blomqvist and also Pat Moss, I think also, yes, Blomqvist and Pat Moss also raced the Saab. And in here it's also a curiosity, even though throughout the history we had some Saabs racing here in Portugal. But yes, the different, the Datsun Sunny 1200, it's a Portuguese specialty. Actually, in Europe there were two very strong markets for this car, countries that could not be closer and similar to each other, Portugal and Finland. So actually no relation almost whatsoever, but those were the two markets where the Datsun Sunny of this generation was very popular. In Portugal it was very important because the agent, the Portuguese agent for Nissan, Interposto Comercial, organized a trophy that was supposed to be a development for drivers. So it was easy, cheap, and it provided enormous grids. Sometimes you did have qualification races before the final because you had so many entries. And this Datsun trophy lasted for 3 years, if I'm not mistaken. 71 was the first race, but the first year actually of the trophy was 72 and 73. I'm not quite sure if 74 they still had the trophy. I have some doubts, but in 30 years later, José Megre decided to do a revival of the Datsun trophy, and that everyone was trying to find a car like this in good condition. Pensioners were rided to sell the cars to young gunners who wanted to go racing. So all of this happened, and apparently there was an advantage for cars with 4 doors because they had a stiffer body than the 2-door versions. This I learned when I was accompanying the preparation of this second wave of the Datsun trophy. So it's a very important car for us. It's very cherished, and it did circuit racing, hill climbing, and rallies, and it still does. That's why we have so many and so good cars. You will see that some of these cars are really fast. They should all be between Group 1 and Group 2 specifications, but yeah, you'll see. They are on the back of the grid, of course. There are cars that are way more powerful, but they could provide us with some interesting complement to the racing that will happen in the faster cars. So back to you, Alistair. What can we expect, and can we go through the starting grid?
Yes, well, I think we're having the memorial, is it, to Nisha Cabral now, with all the drivers going to the front of the grid, by the looks of it.
Yes,
and I think we're going to have
particularly
in memory
moving.
of Nisha.
Yeah, celebrating our most important motor racing ambassador, Mário Araújo Cabral. After Formula One, after appearing in Formula One in the Portuguese Grand Prix in 1959, he raced with a Scuderia Centro-Sud, Cooper Maserati. He placed 10th, so it was a good result. He had a moment with Jack Brabham that accused the Portuguese driver of actually putting him out of the track. But I think Brabham later acknowledged that he risked his life way more being in an ambulance to the hospital driven by an inspired Portuguese ambulance driver than actually the accident on that track. And Mario said that I've seen that Brabham wanted to lap me, but I had my line. If I changed my line, I would probably had an accident, so I kept my line, and I was hoping that he would try to overtake me later on. But Brabham pushed for it, and actually didn't went well for him. Stirling Moss would win that race. And I have the information that we are going for a short break, and we will be right back.
Allowing yourself to get carried away by the moment. That's how a great vacation should be. Being able to forget everything, even the little choices of life. Having to choose between this or that, whether by car or on foot, whether visiting a museum or enjoying the terrace, whether reading a book or taking a nap, whether simple or sophisticated. Why not just leave it up to the moment and see where things take you? It's entirely possible when nothing is missing and everything is so close. Every path is the right path.
And we're back. The drivers are now getting back to their cars. Lots of drivers because we have lots of cars. We have 41 cars in the grid.
And it's quite a long walk for the drivers at the back, isn't it?
Yes, the guys from the Datsun Sunny 1200 need to be real enthusiasts, but they will get on with it. This is Carlos Barbo. He will be starting from the front row with the Merlin Mark IV, a very light and agile car that yesterday in qualifying topped the scoreboard for quite some time until it was and until the Ford GT40 of Tancogni actually made a faster lap.
The Merlin Mark IV that Carlos Barbo is driving uses the 1600cc Lotus twin cam engine in the back of that car, and that engine, the same engine that was used in the Lotus Cortinas, the Mark I Lotus Cortinas, and also the early twin cam Escorts as well. An engine developed for hot Fords initially, but then used in all sorts of racing cars since, and that sits in the back of the Merlin Mark IV on the front row of the grid alongside the Ford GT40. And we've talked about the Ford GT40 before, a car that was developed by Ford with a great amount of help from Lola. In fact, the Eric Broadley connection there worked on the original designs for the Ford GT40, and if you ever see a Lola Mark VI, that looks very much like a GT40, but it isn't, and that car was designed.
It does very closely, but they didn't make many of them, perhaps 3 or 4. I think there were very few. But then the idea, yes, it was a good basis for Ford to develop the Ford GT40, which was a car developed by a committee in at least 2 countries by several teams. So actually it took a long while for them to make it work. And actually the movie that went to the cinemas last year, telling the story of Carroll Shelby and Ken Miles, actually describes this exactly, the difference between Ferrari, where everything was decided by just one person that took the directive and the strategy, and it was a small organization, but very quick in deciding. And then Ford, an industry giant, where everything had to be decided by several people in different departments, always with the marketing guy wanting to do something different. That's why it took so long, because it was a huge investment for Ford to actually win the 24 Hours of Le Mans. But the result is, of course, one of the most iconic racing cars of all time, and a personal favorite, of course, I think, for everyone that accompanies these types of races, and for myself. I was very fortunate to actually drive the GT40 that belonged to Carlos Gaspar, a car that had some Scottish history, as it was driven initially by Eric Liddell. Then it was sold to Carlos Gaspar, who raced it in Portugal. Then again, it went to England and was used in hill climbs by John Bamford. I think he raced under the pseudonym of Spotty Mulder, I think it was his name. And he did very good with that car. And later on, it was starting to be considered a classic car, an historic car, and it was not used so much. then it went to sleep for about 20 years, and it was then bought by a Portuguese collector, and is now used by Diogo Ferrão in some selected races, and it placed third at Goodwood at that incredible race just for GT40s. Do you remember that race, Alistair?
I do, yes. I wasn't there, but I saw it on television.
Yes.
It was tremendous, yeah.
I saw it too. That I think was the year where Kenny Brack actually drove the winning car, and there is some footage that when you see it you can never forget it. Him driving the car in the rain with instant and millimetric corrections. It's really mesmerizing. Yeah, but we shall not take our attention apart from the race. This is an important race. Historic Endurance, Iberian Historic Endurance race. They will be in for the warm-up lap.
Yes, that's an amazing sight with the very, very large grid of about 41 cars heading off around the circuit for their warm-up lap, and in the lovely sunshine over there at Estoril, the colours of the cars on the screen are absolutely fantastic. So it's a really, really great end to a wonderful weekend of racing. And here we see now at turn one, we get a real impression of the size of this grid. It just disappears off into the distance under the Estoril banner that's across the track there. Now we cut to the cars leading the way round through turn 3. And we've got examples of the Mark 1 and the Mark 2 Escort in amongst this. A couple of Porsche 911s there. One of my family favourites, the Alfa Romeo, in the middle of the pack there. And led by the GT40 and the Merlin, with the Chevrolet Grand Sport, I see it's entered as. That looks to me like a Stingray, we would call it perhaps. I don't know whether perhaps it has a different name in Europe, in third place. And that's, I think, going to be shared by Allard Kalf, isn't it? Is he starting? No, it's Michael Campagna who's starting that car, but I think we'll see Allard Kalf take that over in the car that's in third on the grid. And as they stream through Parabolica Interior, they are stretching as far as the eye can see. A great sight. Adelino.
Yes, I just like to point out a story that I find incredibly romantic. Usually you don't see all of this in a motor racing weekend. But can you spot the Porsche 911 pink one just passing through? Well, that car belongs to Annette Rollner. Annette Rollner is the wife of, and now you see the grey Porsche just passing by, is the wife of Lars Rollner. Lars is in the grey metallic 911 3-liter RS, and Annette is in the pink one. So they decided that they would like to have fun both during the weekend of racing, so they prepared two very, very similar cars. I talked with Pedro Fernandes, who takes care of the cars and is a friend of them, and he told me that Lars' car is a bit more aggressive, a bit more powerful, needs a bit more of an experienced hand to drive, and Annette's car is a little more soft and round so that she can handle it easier. But I think it's a wonderful story, and I think that's the sign of a marriage to last for longest, because they share the same passion and they even share the same track time and the same race.
Well, we're coming round for the start now. The safety car has pulled into the pit lane and the field now being released, and this is a 50-minute race, and into an immediate lead goes the two more powerful cars perhaps, but the Merlin's coming back, and into the corner the Merlin of Carlos Barbo takes the lead. The little 1600cc engined car beats the 4.7 litres of Ford GT40, and also the big V8 engine in the Chevrolet as well. But by the time they get to turn 3, the GT40 is back into the lead again, the Merlin down into second place, but being challenged now by the Chevrolet of Michael Campagna as they go down towards VIP, and they're going round VIP now, and then that'll be onto the back straight. That's perhaps where the GT40 and the Chevrolet will pull away from the little Merlin, but will the Merlin be able to come back in the tighter sections of the track further round? Here we see now, in fact, the Merlin has lost also third place to the E-Type, which is started by Andy Newell, who is a British car preparer. He shares with Ria Sorter, who is a lady who is very quick indeed in that E-Type. And they in fact, it's shown as Ria Sorter starting the car, but I'm sure the film we saw, the camera shot, showed Andy Newell in that car in his traditional black helmet with the JCB logos on it. JCB standing for Bamfords, the digger manufacturers, JCB. The Bamford family, great car collectors. And into the lead has gone the Chevrolet ahead of the Ford GT40. So that's Michael Campagna into the lead. Second placed is now the Ford GT40 of Tancon. And they complete the first lap. And the Jaguar is in third place, Barbeau in the Merlin in fourth, but Barbeau's going for the inside of the Jaguar and will get through at turn 1. And then we've got 2 Porsches battling for 5th and 6th places. One of them you mentioned, the Rollner car you mentioned in your build-up, and that's in 5th place. But as we hold on that shot for a minute there, we saw the enormous grid just making its way down at the end of the first lap to turn 1. There's a Mark II Escort there battling away. Now we've got the Jaguar versus Porsche, and this is for 4th, 5th and 6th place. Up ahead of them, the GT40 is back into the lead again. The car number 89, Olivier Tancon, in the GT40, which was on pole position. In second place, Michael Campagna in the Chevrolet Grand Sport, and then in third place, Carlos Barbeau, who has lost out again to the E-Type. So the E-Type's back up into third, Barbeau down into fourth, as we get that lovely rear shot of the GT40 twitching its way into turn 8 and then into the tight chicane. And it looks like the E-Type is still ahead of the Merlin. Yes, the E-Type still ahead of the Merlin, third and fourth. And then behind them are the pair of Porsches. And it looks to be the silver one still ahead, the 242 Porsche of Lars Rollner. Just ahead, yes, the Merlin has lost out to the one of the Porsches, not the second one yet, but it's just the little 1600cc engine being outgunned at the moment by the 4.7 litres of the GT40. The Jaguar 3.8 litres and the 2 Porsches 3 litres, and the little 1600cc really struggling a little bit as we see a car in the pit lane. That's the BMW 2002. That seems to have some problems underneath with the car up on the jacks, with the mechanic working underneath there. So
see the Datsun's
maybe a
battle,
transmission
it's always
problem.
like this. Yes, the Datsun will be fighting probably throughout the race. You have Francisco Freitas, José Carvalhosa and Tomás Pinto de Abreu. They're all friends, so they will have fun exchanging places. They will be at the back of the grid, but they wouldn't mind too much having fun. It's nice to see it at the front. You have a great variety of cars. The GT40, of course, developed in the mid to late 60s. The Chevrolet Corvette is, as you said it well, it's a Stingray. It really looks like a Grand Sport. Perhaps it is a recreation of a Grand Sport, since I think those cars are extremely rare, but I have no information regarding this particular car. And then we have the Jaguar E-Type that you so well described, driven by Rea Soter. Carlos Barbeau, I don't know if he's still in 4th place or if he's, yeah, I think he's after, yeah, the Porsches are in front of Barbeau. But down the grid, we also have some interesting choices for this race. We have a Lotus 7 driven by João Mira Gomes. João Mira Gomes is currently the ambassador of the Portuguese ambassador in Spain, but is also a very well-known petrol head and car enthusiast. He's been racing several types of cars, and he really motors very well the little Lotus 7. We also have a bit ahead, we should have Luís Sousa Ribeiro with the number 177. He drives a BMW 2.8 CS, a car that actually has the livery similar to a car that Mário Cabral drove in the 6 hours of Nova Lisboa in Angola in 1971. That car, Mário Cabral's car, then received a new decoration, white and blue. And with that car, Cabral won the first race ever staged at the Autódromo of Estoril in 1972, the day of the inauguration. So lots of memories here and some landmark history present here. As we see one of the Porsches having apparently problems. It's number 60 that is fuming. Yeah, number 60, Bastos Rezende. The car is fuming, or it was. Now it doesn't seem to. And Ginetta is again in 4th position. Still the first 5 separated by 13 seconds, if my timing is correct. Alistair,
yes,
can you
the
confirm?
Little Merlin. Yes, the Little Merlin still in 4th place behind the E-Type, and then we see that Porsche that you mentioned. It's smoking very badly indeed, but only at certain points around the track. So we can see there through that long right-hander that it was throwing out a lot of smoke, but not on left-handers. So we'll see whether it does it again. There we saw a little puff of smoke there. That doesn't look too good for that car. The Porsche, the engine in the rear, so very short exhaust pipes. And there it is again, smoking into the face of your trio of Datsuns, which are having a great battle, as you said they would do.
Poor guys. Carlos Barbeau is getting perky.
Yes, just trying to find his way through as the smoke screen is laid by car number 60, the Porsche, Pedro Bastos Rezende, and we're focusing on that with the camera, and it's difficult to tell what's causing that to happen, because it's a lot of smoke coming from that car.
There's a black flag with an orange disc for this car, which makes perfect sense. In this condition, he's probably spreading oil all over the track.
So that car will have to come in to the pits, and we see now the leading Ford GT40 another Porsche in the pits, the 83 car. That's Bruno Iglesias Duarte in having attention to the engine, and looks like they might be changing spark plugs in that car with the spanner being used there by the mechanic. And here's the smoky Porsche number 60 coming in, number 60 Bastos Rezende, and again the engine cover comes up.
I don't know if you noticed the name on the airbox in front. It's Aurora. Aurora is a very famous tuning company, and that prepares lots of racing cars and has specialized in Porsches. They are located in Porto, and it is a household name for Portuguese motor racing. And now it is. It prepares several cars for historic racing here in Portugal.
Well, we have a picture on screen of the oil pouring out of the back of, I think that's the Porsche we're looking at there, by the shape of exhausts and the bumper. So I assume that's the one that was smoking, and that looks very, very serious indeed. It's coming out like it's coming out of a tap in your bathroom. And the mechanics are working on it, but I can't see how that can be repaired in time, or maybe it's just a pipe come off, and certainly very serious oil leak. And we're looking now at great variety, because we've got the Ford Falcon. This is the Lotus 7, car number 14. Lotus 7, very popular car, built in the UK. By the Colin Chapman Lotus company, and he's gone through on the inside of the Ford Falcon.
Nice overtaking move by João Mira Gomes. He will be sharing the drive with Nuno Afoito, according to our information, and they are really motoring the little car. It's usually very fast, and of course it weighs almost nothing. So it can go around most of the cars and brake way later than the heavier ones. So it's nice to see them having fun. Oh, there was a moment there when you saw this Escort Mark 1 with the black hood. Have you noticed, Alistair?
Yes.
I think, well, the curse of commentators is perhaps attacking again the Austin 7, but that twin cam Escort is one of the earliest cars of that type here in Portugal, and and those cars were very popular in Portugal for some time, until they were of course superseded by the RS versions. But this particular car was the first Ford Escort twin cam that came to Portugal. It came for Francisco Santos, which was a Portuguese driver, very keen on Ford. Previously he had raced some Cortina GTs and then Cortina Lotus, or Lotus Cortina, which usually you prefer. In Portugal, actually, you always refer to that car to the Ford Cortina Lotus. But of course in Great Britain you always refer to him as the Lotus Cortina. So it's the same car. We use a different thing because the car here was clearly a weapon of promotion for the Ford Motor Company, not so much for Lotus. But as I was saying, this was the first. It's a genuine twin cam with competition history, and it's been driven by Manuel Ferrão in this race.
Well, the engine in the front of that Escort you were describing, the twin cam Escort, is the same engine used in the back of the Merlin, which is now challenging the E-Type for third place. And it's a great little squabble, this, with, I think I'm right in saying that is Andy Newell at the wheel of the E-Type. Certainly, as I said earlier, the shot we had on the grid showed Andy Newell in the car. and he's having a great battle with Carlos Barbo in that little Merlin Mark IV, as we focus now on the leader, the Ford GT40, number 89. The red car looks wonderful, and an Alpha there on screen. A good chance to look at the Alpha as the leader comes round to lap it. The type of Alpha that used in the very famous film The Italian Job. The police had those cars, and they were, of course, beaten by the three little minis, which got away with the gold. And we see the leader going down the main straight.
Yeah, actually, Andrea de Adamic won a rally, an international rally of the ACP in 1964 in an Alfa Romeo Giulia, naturally with the typical colors the works car had, which were white with the colors of the Italian flag. I think they are very, very interesting cars, and in period they were very, very fast and competitive, even though they used a 1.6 liter twin cam engine, the famous Bialbero from Alfa Romeo.
And we're about to see the leader lapping the two Datsuns that are still battling. Datsun has been renamed in Europe as Nissan now, so that's but it used to be called Datsun years ago, and these cars from the period when it was known as the Datsun, and they're about to be lapped by the leader coming through in the Ford GT40, coming round to complete 9 laps. And we're looking there at the little Lotus 7 and the pink Porsche you mentioned earlier on, the pink Porsche number 241 of Annette Rollner. And here's the battle again between the E-Type and the Merlin. It's still going on, and the E-Type having a lovely slide there, being drifted through that left-hand corner, and it's absolutely side by side between the E-Type on the left and the Merlin on the right. And oh dear, there's contact there between the two of them, and unfortunately it looks as though Carlos Barbo didn't realise that he hadn't fully passed the E-Type into that corner, and he turned in hoping to take the line, but of course the E-Type was still there, and that pushed him off the side of the track. But he's got going again, and hopefully no damage to either car. It's just I think what they call these days a racing incident. Neither driver was really at fault there, just close racing. So the Jaguar goes on, and still chased by the Porsche of car number 242, which is the Lars Rollner Porsche, and that in turn has Carlos Barbo now just behind. Adelino.
In the meantime, our Facebook is being bombarded by requests to show the Saab Sonnet. So perhaps our team could help us with fulfilling this wish. It's the car 170. 170. So if production can actually find it in the midst of these 40 cars that are still racing, we will try to help with the location of it very quickly. But so many admirers, they actually deserve that we try and find the car. You can see Luis Sousa Ribeiro's BMW there, actually exiting very, very fast and wagging his tail. Oh, another Porsche Aurora, Porsche from the Garagem Aurora, from Mestre Eduardo Santos. Yeah, that's the end of the race for car number 83.
And we were looking before then at a battle that was going on for the bottom end of the top 10 between the Shelby Mustang, the Porsche, and the BMW 2800, which preceded the 3-litre BMWs that we saw racing earlier. But we're now back with our Datsun, the favourites, at the back of the field. They aren't competitive at the front, but they are having a great. In fact, they're in the mid-30s in the pack. So we've got a 40-odd cars started the race. We've got a yellow flag and a safety car now, and we're showing an oil flag as well, or a slippery surface flag. So it may be that one of the cars that's retired, perhaps that Porsche that we saw pulling off, has dropped some oil on the track. That's a shame. Now the pit window is opening now. So Adelino, we're going to see a lot of cars coming into the pits, aren't we?
Yes, we are. I think we are, and it's going to be crowded, but it's going to be the right crowd, isn't it? Everyone eager to race and have fun, and racing with friends. In Estoril, what more can you ask? I think it's really perfect. But we'll try to spot the Saab Sonnet. I think it's now heading for turn 6. The Parabolica Interior. We'll have certainly an opportunity to have a glimpse of that car soon.
Now the leader goes through the chicane, so he may choose to come into the pits this time around. We've already got Carlos Barbo in the Merlin into the pits, also Ferreira in the Escort, and Cruz in the BMW have come in as the leader comes through Parabolica Ayrton Senna. And here we're looking at the Saab Sonnet. So there we are. We have, thank you very much to the director of the cameras. The requests to see the Saab Sonnet have been met, as 2 Fords come down the pit lane. The Ford Escort Mark II, followed by the Ford GT40. Slightly different cars from the Ford production line. And here we see once again our hard-working marshals applying the highly absorbent material to the oil slick, and that is confirmation that it was that Porsche we watched roll to a halt that caused that problem. Now we're in the pit lane, and we've got the leader of the race in the pits, and a good shot there of the Ford GT40 with the door open, and you can see how the door goes over and forms part of the roof. So when it's open, it's much easier for the drivers to enter and exit. That was part of the strategy for the driver changes at Le Mans, to make it easier and quicker for the drivers to get in and out of the car, which was so low, 40 inches high only. Door is shut on the leading car and will now be coming out of the pits at the end of its stop. We've got just about 26.5 minutes remaining in the race, and the team indicate that the time is up for the pit stop, and indicates to the driver that he can move back out onto the track again. So that's our leader back on track. That temporarily puts the Chevrolet Grand Sport of Campania into the lead, and the Jaguar E-Type, the green car, into second. Tancon returns to the circuit in the GT40. There's the safety car. And I think there'll be an advantage to the cars that do their pit stops during the safety car period, because they lose less time on the track. So it would be as well to come into the pits during this safety car period, if at all possible. And in fact, all the cars are being told to go through. The safety cars going through as well. So I think perhaps there's an instruction for everybody to go through the pit lane.
Yeah, obviously some of them will take the chance to pit now.
The E-Type number 52 and the Chevrolet just ahead, they are now leading the race, and they're coming up through the S's. There's a Ford Capri, a Mark II Ford Capri, a slightly later car from the late 70s. very successful in Group 1 saloon car racing with a 3-litre engine at the front, and took wins at the Spa 24 Hours. Now we've got the cars going into the pit lane, which I think they have to do anyway. I think they're being instructed to follow the safety car through the pit lane, but as you say, a lot of them will take the opportunity to dive into their pit boxes and take their mandatory pit stops. So a very, very busy pit lane indeed. And we can see here the Merlin returning to the track. So one of our leading cars, Carlos Barbo, is back out onto track. And I think is that original Escort twin cam you told us about earlier that's just following it out onto the track there, Adelino?
Yes, it is. Isn't it beautiful? Even though a Mark 1 Escort, I'm doubtful that it could be considered very beautiful, but what it represents. And this car is very narrow at the front. Just at the back, it is a little wider. But it looks so pretty and so unmolested, and it's been a car restored with great care. It's not the fastest car around, but it is a really beautiful car to see in this condition. So, and we still think that when things calm down, I think we now have I think the timing considered that all cars have stopped, but I'm not quite sure they did mandatory stopped already. We have to see how this clears up, because
yes, they're counted as having been through the pit lane because they are behind the safety car, but we don't know whether they actually stopped and did their pit stops, because the counter that shows us whether they've been through the pits is just triggered by the car entering the pit lane, not stopping at its pit. So,
I think what it did is the cars that already, the cars that have mentioned that they stopped twice, those are the ones who already pitted. I think, but we have to rely on this, because I know the Ford GT40 stopped and did the mandatory pit stop. It has the information that it pitted twice. So let's see how the race unfolds. We have green flag again.
And the little Merlin, I think, now has been taken over by Pedro Matos. Is that correct? From Carlos Barbo. I think that was the plan, wasn't it? Carlos has got black overalls, and that driver has white overalls.
I think so, and he's still in the same lap of the leader. Let's see if he can make up ground. We need a couple of laps to see if everyone already pitted. I don't think so. I think that there are still a lot of cars that have yet to stop. But the pit window will close in less than 1.5 minutes.
Yes, I think they'll all have had to have stopped, or if they haven't, they'll have to stop this time around, because they'll not be back at the pit lane in time. And we're looking here at the car, the Chevrolet Grand Sport, that's running in second place with Michael Campagne at the wheel, and the Ford GT40 is out in the lead still, Tancon, and the Chevrolet coming through the Parabolica Ayrton Senna. There's the leader, the Ford GT40, number 89 of Olivier Tancon. And about to catch another example of a Ford car, the Ford Falcon, which was very successful in saloon car racing in the 60s. Uses the same engine. Maybe not this one. I haven't looked what the CC of the Falcon is, but if it's 4.7 litres, which they often are, yes, it is. It's the same engine as in the GT40, the 4.7 litre Ford V8 engine used in both those cars. And just very neatly following on behind them, it looks like a Ford Capri. So we've got 3 Fords in a row, the GT40, the Ford Falcon and the Ford Capri. And ahead of them is the Porsche. So here's the leader coming up through the chicane. And this will be when he comes round to the main straight. 14 laps completed.
Yeah, Carlos Barbo's woes are not finished because car number 227 has received a drive-through overtaking before the finish line. That's probably the lap when the safety car entered. But it's probably not Carlos Balbo driving anymore. It should be his racing partner.
Yes, we actually had that on screen, and I can see how that kind of happened, because there was certainly confusion in my mind as to whether the safety car was going in or whether it was telling the drivers to follow it through the pit lane once again. But we'd had the message that the safety car was going in. But I think the little Merlin was already going off on another lap, and it must have just passed one of the slower cars before the start-finish line, which is quite a way down the track beyond the pit lane entry. So Carlos has had some trouble with penalties this weekend, as we see one of the Porsches, the 924 Porsche, I think that is. No, it was the
9146.
914, yes, with the six-cylinder engine. So that's running in 17th place, Vieira.
We see another Alfa Romeo, that grey Alfa Romeo pursuing the Chevrolet, is a very close replica of a 1750 GT-AM. So I was talking to Pedro Fernandez, who also prepares this car, and he told me it was made very carefully, including with the capacity of the engine. It was made on top of an original 1750 Alfa Romeo Giulia Sprint. So we can also see now behind the Chevrolet the Jaguar E-Type of Robert Frovine. He told me that this car was prepared according to the specification of semi-lightweight Jaguar E-Types. It's a roadster with the hard top, and the engine mildly prepared for this. So Robert is a gentleman driver that takes great fun driving here in Estoril, and actually I think is spending more and more time in this area. It's a good example of someone who adopted Cascais as his second home.
We see now the leader, the GT40, passing once again, lapping the two Datsuns, still battling away. And that's for the class lead as well, those two Datsuns. So they have an important race to run, as we look now at the Merlin of the taken over from Carlos Barbo by Pedro Matos, passing the Porsche. And I think that was is that the 242 Porsche? Yes, that was for position. So Matos has moved up to third place with the Merlin, having got past the Rollner Porsche number 242 on that lap.
Yes, that's the pair husband and wife. So it's Lars Rollner, the pair of the pink 911 3-liter RS of Annette Rollner, that's currently in 16th place. They are certainly going to win the husband and wife award in this race, as long as they both finished, which will certainly happen.
Well, we have a message on the screen that there's a drive-through penalty for the car we're looking at now, the 227 Merlin, for what we were talking about earlier, overtaking before the finish line at the end of the safety car. I haven't seen that car come through. It's showing as being through the pits twice, which would be right with the safety car laps through the pits. So I think we'll probably see the car come in the next lap or two to serve that drive-through penalty. And that will drop it back behind the Lars Rollner Porsche for fourth place. The next car back is car number 8, the Cobra Daytona of Tancon, and it may well lose a position to that as well. Here we see the Merlin coming down the main straight, so he's chosen not to take that drive-through penalty on this particular lap. I think he will have to take it within 3 laps, so he must come in and serve that penalty. Otherwise he'll be told to come in and park the car and not rejoin the race. As we look at the leader coming through the chicane in the GT40, the leader by 43 seconds now in the GT40 number 89, Olivier Tancon, 43 seconds ahead of the Chevrolet Grand Sport number 110 of Michael Campagne. Coming around to complete lap 17. We notice we have a pit caller, which is not scheduled because it's outside of the pit window, for our class leader in the 1971 class. That's the BMW 2800 CS, car number 177 of Luis Souza Ribeiro. And that, of course, now is dropping down as it sits in the pit lane, so a possible problem for our class leader there. And it was running in 8th or 9th place overall. And it looks like it was a quick pit stop because it's now shown as coming out of the pit lane. So that's the 177 car has lost the class lead. That's now been taken by the 337 Porsche. That's Piero Dal Masso, Nuno Nunes. There's 3 drivers in that car actually. Don't know how they get 3 drivers in a car when there's only 1 pit stop, but that's in the 2.5 litre Porsche ST. Car number 337 takes the lead of class 1971. And we noticed also the Porsche 914 that we saw slow a couple of laps ago on screen has slowed again. So is that problems for that car? That's running down in, well, it's actually just taken a place, 21st place, Vieira, in car number 17, the white Porsche 914 with the 6-cylinder engine. There it is on screen actually at the back of this group, just ahead of the Mark II Escort, the red car with the blue stripe, and the second of the Datsuns waving the faster cars through, Adelino.
Yes, they are, but we can spot also the Saab Sonnet of Paulo Souza, the red car between the Alfa Romeo and the grey Porsche, the metallic grey Porsche. It's the Saab Sonnet, front-wheel drive car, a very unusual shape. You can see them now entering the straight, the finish line straight. 10 minutes to go.
And the 227 Merlin is taking its drive-through penalty.
Oh, what happened with the Sonnet? It's again the curse of the commentator, I think, and this time it's my fault. I was pushing so hard for the car to appear here, following the requests of the audience that has been messaging our and putting comments on our Facebook page. It's a pity, just 9 minutes to go, and Paulo Sousa, she's deserved to finish this race.
You mentioned earlier on about the Chevrolet Grand Sport, which you said was a very rare car. You're absolutely right. Only 5 were ever made, and it was supposed to be a car that could be produced for racing to compete. In 1962, the Corvette was very heavy. The Saab Sonnet has pulled up to the side of the track, and Duntov, the designer, decided to build a lightweight car, and he called it the Grand Sport. But sadly, he planned to build 125 cars, but sadly the management found out about it and put a stop to it, and only 5 were ever built. That's the car we're looking at on screen, an extremely rare version of what was supposed to be a car to beat the Shelby Cobras, which were much more competitive.
Yet the Sonnet, the Sonnet came back to life. Have you seen? The car was moving again. I thought perhaps it was wishful thinking, but I thought the Saab moved a bit. Yes, I don't have the information I have from its transponder is that it's now moving again.
We've got some further penalties for cars that have looks like
there
car
it goes.
number
Yeah,
7.
Saab.
The leader comes through in
you can
the
go,
GT40.
Yeah, you can go ahead with the penalties. Sorry, we have some lag here between our conversation. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, we've just seen on our screen that we've got some penalties. They're not explained as to why they've got them, but car number 17, which is in 18th place, that's the Vieira Porsche 914, which is shown as having a drive-through penalty. Car number 60 is in 34th place, that's Bastos Rezende in the Porsche 911. Car number 177, that's Suso Ribeiro in what was a class-leading car some laps ago that came into the pits in the BMW 2.8 litre. And finally, car number 545 in 30th position, the BMW 1600 Ti of Guerin. They've all got penalties. We haven't been told why. Now we're looking at the Merlin again, having done its drive-through penalty, and we've got a good battle building up with the Merlin just ahead of the Lars Rollner Porsche and the Tancon Cobra and the Ferrera Porsche Ford Escort RS 1600. All those 4 cars running closely together, 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th places. Then it's in 7th, the Ria Sorta E-Type, car number 52, the green car, which was started by Andy Newell. Here comes the Merlin now. So this is in 3rd place. And the Porsche of Rollner just behind the silver car, number 242, they're in 4th place. Gap between them about 5 seconds, just under. And then behind Rollner is the Daytona Cobra.
Yeah, we are missing now the fight between Oldendorf in the Alfa Romeo GT AM that we've seen previously, and Robert Provine's Jaguar E-Type, the grey, metallic grey Jaguar with the red stripe. They've been racing together for most of the race, and they are at the moment separated by little more than 1 second. They are battling for 15th place, and now one of the Escort Mark II had a spin. I'm sure he will be able to rejoin soon. Car number 518. Luís Liberal. Luís Liberal in the Ford Escort RS 2000. Is currently in
another
20th
lap.
place.
Leader completes another lap. 22 laps now by Tancon in the GT40 with just about 3 minutes remaining in the race. So another couple of laps for the red GT40. There's the second placed car, the 110 Campagne Chevrolet Grand Sport, which is running 1 minute and 5 seconds behind the leader, just coming up through the S's. And then the fastest car on track is actually the third placed car, number 227, which has had its troubles in this race. It's had a drive-through penalty, started by Carlos Barbo, number 227, but now taken over by Pedro Matos. And that car is about 23 seconds behind Campagne and going well over 3 seconds a lap quicker, but just not enough time with that drive-through penalty pushing it back, just not enough time to catch, as we see yet another Porsche. I'm afraid Porsche not proving to be the most reliable car in this race. Another Porsche pulling off as Matos goes through to complete a lap. 22 laps completed. Then it's this very close battle for 4th and 5th places. Lars Rollner and Tancon, as we see an Escort pulled up now, number 48.
Yes.
And that was in 7th position.
It was Miguel Ferreira, Ford Escort RS 1600. It's a pity he was doing a very good race. He was lapping consistently at 2 minutes 1 second, so it was going very well.
Well, the leader now onto his final lap, having just passed Ford Escort Mark II, and there's the second placed car of Campagne in the Chevrolet Grand Sport, just coming up through the chicane. A little bit of a sideways moment there as he powers out of the corner, but there's the leader ahead and on its final lap, just about to lap the Porsche 914 again. And the 23 laps have been completed by the leader. There's our third placed car, the little Merlin Mark IV, number 227 of Matos, and despite the drive-through penalty has remained on the same lap as the leaders and is closing in on the Chevrolet. It's now only 20 seconds behind, but just not enough time. This is the last lap, so he won't catch the Grand Sport as the leader goes into the final section of the track through the chicane, up the hill. He's got the E-Type just in front of him, semi-lightweight, I think you described it as, the silver one with the red stripe, and through the S's.
It
now,
is, yes, it's precisely, yeah.
Around Parabolica Ayrton Senna for the final time, and turning onto the main straight with a BMW just pulling into the pit lane, but the leader will go across the line to take the checkered flag, which goes out now. And so a win for Olivier Tancon in the Ford GT40. Here's our second place car making his way around at the through the Parabolica interior. That's the car of Michael Campagna in the Chevrolet Grand Sport. Down now to the final section of the track, up to turn 8, and then the tight chicane up the hill. And this, as we've said, a very rare car indeed, which was designed to try and beat the Shelby Cobras, but was never put into proper production, only 5 ever built. And through the final corner, the Parabolica Ayrton Senna, comes Campagna to take second place in the race. Onto the main straight. Same class as the GT40, so second in the GTP class. And a spirited drive from the little Merlin Mark IV with the Lotus twin cam engine. Here it is now. It was closing all the time on the Chevrolet, but just hadn't got enough time to take the place. So finishes third, despite a drive-through penalty, and the gap at the end just 16 seconds. So he took another 4 seconds off on that last lap. So a great drive from Matos, who took over from Carlos Barbo in the Little Merlin to get third place and third in GTP. We should see the Porsche through in fourth place. That's the 242 Silver Lars Rollner Porsche, which will win the 1976 class. And it does, crosses the line, and only 3 seconds behind at the end was the Cobra Daytona of Xavier Tancon, car number 8, which wins the 1965 class.
If I'm not mistaken, the Rollner couple will take the first 2 places of the podium in the 1976 category. So we'll have Lars and Annette Rollner in the first top spots of the podium for that category, which is nice.
Indeed, yes. Yes, you're right, because Annette finished in 11th place overall, but was second in the 1976 class. So the Tancon Daytona Cobra finishes 5th.
I'm sure that if Annette likes Rollner's Cup more, he'll be more than glad to exchange for the second place one as soon as they arrive home. So.
Sixth place went to a car in the invitation class. That was number 95, the BMW 323i. And the Grand Sport, despite being a very rare car, being flung around on the slowing down lap through the chicane. Yes, Campagna deciding to give his Grand Sport a bit of a slide.
And we have Rui Belmont now with the winner. Rui, go ahead.
Okay, we are here with Olivier. We saw him yesterday in the 60s race. Today he won this last race, the Iberian Historic Endurance. Let's see what he has to say after this fantastic race. Olivier, 2 wins this weekend, 2 great races, 1 win this weekend, but this one was amazing.
Yeah, thank you. That was very nice. Everything went really well, and I just can't complain. I'm just really happy.
Any kind of problems throughout the race?
No. Just I saw my dad in the last few laps, and I almost caught him. So I wanted to catch him. I didn't manage. But no problems.
Okay, thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Olivier wants the race with this beautiful Ford GT40. Other drivers are getting to the pit lane at the moment. The second place also with this fantastic Cobra, fantastic car also, and also the third place for the beautiful Merlin, the little and light Merlin. That's usually driven by Carlos Barbo. Fantastic third place for the beautiful Merlin after this 50 minutes race, a race that saw the beautiful Ford GT40 finished in first place at the end of this 50 minutes. This was the last race of this 2020 Classics Estoril. We hope to see these cars, these drivers once again in 2021. Sorry guys, and I'll let it to you, Adelino and Alistair, to finish this fantastic weekend.
Thank you so much, Rui. You were pretty fantastic also with these interviews during the weekend. We should now see the highlights of this race, and with 41 cars at the start. And the battle between particularly the Jaguar E-Type and the Merlin, they were fierce and ended up in a clash that actually delayed a little bit the smaller car. Alistair, what are your thoughts regarding this last race, the memorial of Mário Cabral, the historic endurance racing?
Oh, it was a fascinating race. Partly because there were so many cars, but it was the variety of cars that really attracted the attention, with everything from what we see here, a Lotus 7, right through to the Porsches, Jaguars, Daytona Cobras, the little Merlin, so quick with its little 1600cc engine, and great to see those cars battling on the track together. Some very close action there we saw between the Lotus 7 and one of the Datsuns as well. Here comes our leader, the GT40 Olivier Tancon, and you heard him mention in the interview there that he was catching up with his dad, who was in the AC Cobra Daytona. He's coming up to lap him, didn't quite catch him in the end. The Xavier Tancon finished in fifth place in car number 8, and there's the spin for the Merlin after that little clash with the Jaguar. And then we saw one of the Porsches retiring, and the GT40. There's the Saab Sonnet, another view of the Saab Sonnet for our fans out there watching on the live stream. And here's the Chevrolet Grand Sport, the Ford GT40 in first and second places. And finally we're looking at the Merlin again. The Datsuns, we had a glimpse of them there battling away, which they did throughout the whole race, as Adelino told us they would. And there's the Grand Sport coming up through the tight section. Now we got the checkered flag for Olivier Tancon in the GT40. Wins the last race of the day, and there's the Campania Grand Sport finishing in second, and the little Merlin of Barbo and Matos finishing in third place. So that concludes our racing weekend. It's been an absolute pleasure working with the team that have been supporting us for this live stream, and thank you very much, Adelino. It's been great working with you, and I've really enjoyed the races in Estoril for the Classics, and I've really enjoyed your weather. We just would like some here, please.
Well, with the global warming thing happening, so perhaps in 200 years or something, you probably have the same weather as we do. So, but I would like to hear from Rui Belmonte. I think he did a wonderful job complementing the information we had here on the screens. He was there talking with the drivers throughout the weekend, and I would like you, Rui, to tell me a bit about what you thought about this racing. Don't forget the motorbikes, because you're clearly a specialist, and I would like to know how you feel after this weekend. We are in the final moments of the event.
Oh, it was a great weekend. Alistair was talking about the weather. This is the best month to do races here at Estoril, no doubt about it, because you have less wind than in the other months. In the summer you have also a little bit of windy moments, especially at this time of the day. After 3-4 o'clock, the wind starts to grow and grow with a larger intensity. So this is the best month. Usually October, it's not a windy month here at Estoril. We had a fantastic Saturday and Sunday with lots of sun, good weather, no rain as in other parts of Europe. So it was a perfect weekend. Lots of cars, beautiful cars, fantastic drivers also, beautiful motorcycles with a lot of history also. So I think this showed everyone that this event is building his way to be one of the most important maybe in Europe in the next few years. We had at the beginning 250 cars getting on their way to Estoril, but the COVID scene, all the restrictions turned it to be impossible to have so many cars here at Estoril, but I believe that next year we'll have 250, maybe more cars at this event. It was also one of the first major events here in Portugal to have such a long period of television, of broadcast to show the world what we have here, to show everyone what's all about historic car racing. So I think some boundaries have been broke by the organization. Some new things have been put here at the table of this event. I believe that this event has it has a lot to grow from this moment with motorcycles, with cars, with several drivers from so many countries in Europe, and not only Europe. So it was a perfect weekend. I believe so. Alistair was such a good input to all of us. As you said, Adelino, I'm a motorcycle, mainly a journalist, so it was good to me to learn from two such experienced guys in this scene, to know a little bit more, a lot more, not a little bit, about this scene of historic car racing. It was a pleasure for me, and I hope to be here again next year with you guys.
Thank you very much, Rui. Your contribution was invaluable, and we really thank you for that. We are waiting for the podium. We want to leave you just after we deliver the final prizes, the winners of the final race, the Iberian Historic Endurance Nisha Cabral Memorial. We continue with the highlights of this great race, very well contested, with 41 cars at the start. Not all of them reached the end, but while they were on track, they gave us enormous pleasure to see. I quite fancy this decoration and the sticker that says Sex Pistols on the top of the windscreen of the Chevrolet Corvette. And we are at the podium. We're waiting for this should be the category for the spirit category. And that means these are the boys of the Datsun 1200. So I can see Francisco Freitas on the right. He was paired with a Spanish driver. And then you have Tomás and António Pinto de Abreu, father and son. They shared the drive of the Datsun 1200. There you go with the trophies and the bottle of champagne. Yeah, why not? Go for it. The races are run, so they can call a cab later on to go home. And there is also some prize money for them to go to dinner, perhaps the four of them. Guillermo Velasco is, of course, shared the winner car of this category with Francisco Freitas. His name was slipping from my tongue, and I didn't want to mess it up. So Guillermo Velasco, congratulations for your win. We have several categories to award now. Let's see if I can find them all. Still have a few more images of the Circuito de Estoril. There is some beauty in an empty circuit, although of course we preferred it with fast cars and fast motorbikes. A circuit founded in 1972. It was a lady that actually is responsible for us to have this track, Fernanda Pires da Silva. She has her name associated forever to this circuit. The Brazilian architect Nigel Cornelsen designed this track that had three different configurations at the start. Now the podium, I think it is for the 1965 category. So Xavier Tancogne with the AC Cobra Daytona. Ria Soter that shared the driving with Andrew Newell. And Van Marshall with the Ford Mustang Shelby. He should be the third placed car placed in the category for 1965 cars. Again, returning a bit to the history of Cascais circuit while we wait a bit more. As I told you, Nigel Cornelsen was the architect of the circuit, and he designed it with three different configurations. There was an outside circuit without the middle section that we would consider to be there was a direct connection between corner number 3 and number 7. the corner we call orelha, or the ear corner. So those would not exist. There was a straight line with a small kink between corner number 2 and the older corner number 9. There was, of course, the complete section with the inside area, VIP corner, a back straight, and the parabolic interior. And there was also just an oval circuit that was very seldom used, but it was in the original project. We're still waiting for another podium to be completed. I remember that this is the Iberian Historic Endurance race, the last race of the weekend. But I can fill you in with a few more details of the history of the Autódromo do Estoril history. There was a previous race, even while the circuit was in construction. There was a kind of a rallycross race where people were actually anxious to try the new track, even though it was not finished. It didn't have tarmac. But the inauguration was in 1972. First race was on Saturday for Group 2 cars, and Mario Cabral won that race in a BMW 2800 CS Schnitzer. There were also some races, other races, one for sports cars and prototypes. If I recall correctly, Carlos Gaspar won the race in his Lola T280. There was also a single-seater race that combined Formula Ford and Formula V, and another race for touring cars, which Mario Cabral also won in a BMW 2002 Ti. And we have another podium now. And I think it is the podium for the 1971 category, Oldendorf with Alfa Romeo GTA M. He did a good race. He had quite some struggle with Diogo Coutinho in the BMW 2800 CS, and also Piero Dalmaso in third place with a Porsche 2.5 ST. Congratulations to them all. And I ask Alistair just a few final words before we say our goodbyes. Alistair, can you read me? Well, thank you. It was really my pleasure. I loved being your wingman in this. It was your experience was valuable, most valuable, particularly because it's the first time we're doing this in this fashion, live streaming. With you in England, I'm in Portugal. We have all the challenges of a struggle. With some lag and some difficulties in connection, even though technical team was great. Yeah, I think I have to say a few words with this podium. This would be the 1976 category, and we have Lars Rollner on the top spot. His wife in the pink suit, Annette Rollner, in second place. And I have also my friend Carlos Dias Pedro on the right with the white overalls, and his co-driver, whose name I will say in just a few moments. I need to confirm it, with the Ford Escort RS 2000. The first three finishers, the three best cars and teams in the 1976 category here in this race. And Carlos Dias Pedro was paired with Ricardo Pereira. They did a very good job. The Escort is a very different machine from the Porsches, and yeah, the spoils for this wonderful couple that share their motor racing passion. Yeah, you throw champagne like a little girl. But yeah, you should try that again. But it was fun actually seeing them on the podium. And Alistair, yes, it was a great pleasure to be with you. To not in person, which we will have to arrange for next year, for sure. I would love to have you by my side so that we can share coffee and grab a beer after the races. And hopefully we will be able to do this next year in Estoril Classics 2021. Thank you. Please thank also your good friend, your brother, Russell, for all the help he gave us this weekend. We really appreciate that.
Which made, I think, some of the histories of the cars more interesting as we watched them on the track. So thanks once again.
Thank you very much, and I wish you now a good rest and a good recovery from this weekend's hard work. Thank you very much. Well, we're still waiting, I think, for the final podium, where we hope to see Olivier Tancogne, Campagne et Barbeau. I don't know if it's now. It's the final podium. The three fastest teams in this 15-minute race. 4 GT40 on top. The team Campagne Calf with Michel Campagne in the Chevrolet Grand Sport, and Carlos Barbeau and Diogo and Pedro Matos. To confirm, yes, Pedro Matos in the little Merlin Mark IV. So to the winners, the spoils of victory and champagne. Congratulations to all. Yeah, this is a proper celebration. You deserve it. Great racing for this final race of Estoril Classics 2020. We'll be coming back next year with a bigger, better, and more spectacular event than this one. Hopefully with the same kind of weather we enjoyed this weekend. This is Adelino Diniz. I'm ready to sign out for this after the weekend. Thank you everyone for being with us. Thank you for all the drivers that were very keen to talk with us, to tell us some information, and everyone around here. Even in the schedule and the program, it was impeccable. Race control and marshals, I think, all did a very, very good job. I'm saying my goodbyes in English, and then I hope you forgive me for that my final words would be in Portuguese. So, thank you very much. See you next year. E agora, em português, obrigado a todos. Obrigado Estoril, obrigado Cascais. Até para o ano.